Yo, what's up guys, welcome back to another video. Today I wanted to share 5 of the most common mistakes producers make when making melodies. So yeah, let's get straight into it. So the first mistake I see a lot of producers make is their choice of velocities. Now I made this little example melody just to kind of show you the difference. So it sounds like this. Now this has a lot of changes on the velocities. Now if we didn't change this, it would sound like this. Which sounds pretty harsh and not very pleasant to the ears. Now what I see a lot of producers do is that they do change their velocities, but they usually just go in here and they press Alt R to randomize it, and then they just leave it like that. Now this does sound a little bit better, but it still sounds pretty harsh. So what you can do is that you can first you can lower the notes, and then you can single out the melody, and then you can make these louder. So this already sounds a lot better, but to get it sound even better, what I like to do is that I just manually change both of the velocities the way that I want it to sound. So I can start with a melody and we can just kind of change it ourselves. And when I do this, I don't really like to have it just go up and then go down like that, but kind of have it go back and forth between loud and quiet. Now you can also do this for the chords, but it's not really as important. And now the most common mistake is probably the rhythm, and this is really important to get it to sound good. So if we left the rhythm at 1-2 beat, as a lot of producers do, it would sound something like this. Which sounds quite boring and repetitive. So what you can do is that you can kind of switch between the 1/3 and the 1/4 beat to kind of get a little mix of the rhythm, which makes it sound a lot better. So as you can see this in this example, first here for the chords we're using the 1/4 beat, and then for the melody we're using 1/3, and then we go into 1/4 and then back to 1/3. This just makes it sound a lot more melodic. Now this will generally come good over time when you make a lot of melodies, but a way you can kind of practice getting better at this is that you turn it on to bar and you just try to tap in the melodies without the bars in the background. And this just gives you a lot more freedom to make the melody how you want it, instead of having to follow the bars in the background. Now this next mistake comes when you're laying different instruments on top of each other, and I'll show you what it sounds like. Just some basic instruments. I got a harp and a bell. As you can hear, these instruments are kind of clashing together and fighting for the same room. And now a good way you can figure this out is that you go to the instruments and you open up an EQ and you kind of look where the most of the sound is coming from. So So as you can see on the piano, we have a lot of the low, mid and mid frequencies. If you go on the harp as well, we have pretty much the same area. And then for the bell, we have pretty much the same area as well, so they're pretty much fighting for all of this space. And what we can also do is that we can go to the master and open up an EQ. And you can see that there's way too much low mids and too little of the other frequencies. Now how you can fix this is that you can pretty much just change the octaves of the instruments. So we move the harp down an octave, and then we move the bell up an octave. Now if we look at the EQ master, you see that it's a lot more happening. Now the next mistake I see a lot is that they don't leave a room between the notes in the melody. So I'll show you an example of that, what that will sound like. Now, since there's playing a melody all the time, you don't really have any time to breathe, which just makes the melodies down, the notes in the melody stand out a lot less. And then we also have this pretty boring rhythm, which is just going down and then up and down and up and down, which is really overused and sounds a bit too predictable. Now the last mistake that I wanted to cover is that the harmonies doesn't make sense, and basically what this means is that the notes that you're using in the melody doesn't really match with the chords that you have in your chord progression. So I'll show you what it sounds like if we didn't follow that. It really just feels like it doesn't make sense. So the way you can fix this is that you look at your chord progression, what notes you have in the chord progression. So for the first chord, we're using this C sharp minor chord. So we have the C sharp, the E, and the G sharp. And you don't want to have all of the notes from these from the chords, but I usually like to start it on the right note and then end it on the right note. So we start it on the E, which is the third in the chord. And then we pretty much just use these chords or these notes for passing notes. And then we land on this C sharp, which is the third in the A major chord. And then we go to the C, which is the third in the G major chord. Whereas in this example, this B doesn't really make sense with this chord, and the A doesn't really make sense with the G sharp major chord. And it also starts on an F sharp, which is not a part of the C sharp minor chord. And then we can also see on the second part of the sample, we're landing on this B, which again doesn't make sense. And then we go to this C sharp, which is not really a part of the chord, which is also the tonic of the C sharp minor scale. So it really doesn't work with the fifth. So yeah, this was 5 of the most common mistakes that I see. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I also hope you learned something new. And I will see you in the next video. Peace out.